Hello, I'm Ethan, a New York-based organization development coach, and today's video is on employee needs. So the guidance that I'm providing today can be leveraged in your personal as well as professional relationships. It's all about understanding human needs, general, consistent human needs that we all share. So let's dive in. Okay, so we're going to spend time in two models today. One is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then we're going to transition over to the 5 universal needs that every human being shares. So the reason that this has universal application is that to understand ourselves and other people in terms of how we forge stronger relationships, we can apply the lessons that we can glean from these universal needs that every human being shares in our work relationships with our peers, people we work collaboratively with. We can apply it with those people that we manage up, that we report to, and those people who report to us. In other words, we can apply this universally to any person at any level of the organization we interact with. You can also apply it to other stakeholders, vendors, partners, clients, anybody who we interact with. So let's start with Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs that was developed over decades of his research with thousands of individuals into how we all process our own needs. And what do we need from each other? And more importantly, as an organization, when you're building out culture, we always talk about putting our employees first, or empowering employees, or employee motivation. Well, whatever the buzzwords are, whatever we're talking about when it comes to motivation, we're really talking about a very simple construct. We're talking about serving our employees' needs in terms of them being human beings. And so that's the beauty of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is from a psychological perspective, we can apply this up, down, across, in and out of the organization. It has truly universal organizational dynamic. So we start out with the physiological needs. So Abraham Maslow found that the beauty of his model was we all have a hierarchy of needs. And in order for us to move up the ladder or up the levels of hierarchy, we have to have those first level needs met. So the first most basic or elemental is survival, right? It's physiological. We talk about food, water, sex, homeostasis, excretion, so health. So when we talk about health and wellness, what we're really talking about is balancing our people's need for wellness, both physiological, psychological. They need to be in an okay state of existence to perform at a high level. And you as an organization, you as a manager, you as a leader or a senior executive, you have an absolute responsibility to ensure that your people are cared for. That's what leadership actually means. So the beauty of Maslow's hierarchy is that we start with most basic, and then once you as an organization and your interaction with your employees ensures that from a relationship standpoint, they're physiologically okay, you and your people can move them up to the next level, which is safety. So we talk about security of body, employment safety, a general sense of balance, a sense of protectiveness. And here's the thing. Organizations have moved away from that decades ago. That whole notion of we hire people and we make a obligation, a commitment to them, that's gone, unfortunately. And I'd like to suggest that the most amazing organizations, even in global pandemics, even in the most unanticipated, high adverse impact situations, they don't lay their people off. They come up with every other conceivable strategy to protect their people's employment with them rather than initiate downsizing. So let's talk about where downsizing came from, right? It came 40 plus years ago in the 1980s. The largest sector of the American economy was manufacturing, car manufacturing. And so we, since World War II, had unfettered control. The big 3 car manufacturers, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, had universal ability to control the car manufacturing industry. And then all of a sudden, when Japanese and German imports came into our market that were built much more economically and offered a much greater range of feature functionality at a lower price, our American big 3 manufacturers had no response. So to remain viable, they initiated those newly minted 30-year-old MBAs, initiated these draconian layoffs of millions of people. That has been implemented over and over for decades, and now it's a default go-to move that most companies make. I think it's time we reinstitute the notion of safety. And you'll find in my videos on my YouTube channel where I dissect amazing organizations doing great things for their people, always emphasize people being protected and safe. They can't do their best work otherwise. So you ensure, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that second level of safety. Once that is delivered to your people, they're able to psychologically move up to the third level, which is a sense of belonging, of family. So let me say this. In my 15 years of coaching and consulting and 20 years in the private sector before that, I have found that it's just abject bullshit when an organization says, oh, you know, we treat our people like their family. Well, I don't know about you, but in my family of dysfunction, I wouldn't want an employer to claim that they'll treat me like my family. But the notion of belonging, a sense of love, to what extent does your organization or you directly as a leader, as an owner, to what extent do you give your people a sense of belonging? So I know that there's been a backlash of late against an initiative that a few years ago was triggered during Black Lives Matter, really is when the impetus of it, really the DE&I initiatives in corporate America. And we're seeing a backlash against it. But there was a letter that was left out in Maslow's hierarchy of needs of diversity, equity, inclusion. B, the letter B for belonging. So the sense of belonging is my voice heard in this company? Do my ideas matter? Do you seek out my ideas? After all, we all know now, and there's a ton of videos on my YouTube channel where I talk about this, but people have a sense of belonging and they feel like they're valued when you not only solicit their ideas, but you basically act on them. We know that employees are closest to the work because they do it. Damn it. It's not management. They're a little bit removed from the day in, day out hustle and bustle of serving clients. And certainly your leadership team isn't involved in day in, day out, interactions. It's your employees. So make them feel a sense of belonging. How do you make me feel included? And the manifestation of this happened during and after COVID. The aftermath was how do organizations adapt with giving people the flexibility to work, whether a hybrid schedule, not mandating I have to come to the office, but allowing me to work remotely, but in a distance-based or a displaced workforce, how do you still ensure that people have a sense of belonging? And organizations I consult with are still struggling with this notion of we have a hybrid workforce environment, but how do we make our people feel a sense of something, even though they're physically not coming into an office where they're immersed in the culture every day? But assuming that you deliver this to your people, a sense of intimacy, connectedness, belonging to the organization, I'm able to, according to Maslow, from a psychological perspective, move up to a sense of esteem. And it goes two ways. Esteem, according to Maslow, is identified of self-esteem, my feelings of self-worth and confidence and achievement and the respect that I receive, and also the respect that therefore, because I have a sense of belonging and I do feel good about myself because you as an organization make me feel good about myself, I want to reciprocate because that's the nature of human dynamics. And it's the nature of human relationships from a psychological perspective. So, okay, I have this sense of esteem. I feel valued, and I feel like I value other people in this organization. That allows me, according to Maslow's, moving up the levels of hierarchy in terms of the ultimate highest pantheon of human fulfillment is self-actualization. And that's the notion of a morality, a sense of complete creativity, spontaneity, critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, team building. A Hungarian emigre to the United States, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, studied this for decades. It's called, from an employee performance and productivity standpoint, being in flow. And what flow means is devoid of all of the toxic attributes of an organizational environment. I am freed up in my most enlightened sense of myself. I'm self-actualized to optimize my ability to produce and perform and contribute to the organization. So here's the thing about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You really need to understand, as an organization, as somebody who may be in a hiring, talent acquisition, talent retention capacity, you may be a business owner and or an entrepreneur just starting out and hiring your first few people. At any point that your people are engaged with you, if some major life event happens, they can be knocked down one or worse, multiple levels of human need based on some traumatic life event. And it's the onus of responsibility falls squarely on your shoulders as a world-class organization to understand where every individual is, whether you're 5 employees or 50,000, to understand how your people are doing. So I'll frame this for you a certain way. How do you ensure that all of your people's needs are being met? So this is one model that I wanted to share. The other model is comparable, but it's a little bit different. And it has to do more with the interplay of human beings in terms of communication. But it's, again, a universal construct that all human beings have these 5 needs. So think about it like an iceberg and Titanic, and only seeing what you see above the visible waterline, but the most dangerous attributes from an organization standpoint are lying hidden beneath the relative common surface of your formal culture. There are 5 levels of need, and we're going to go through them, from most obvious and apparent and visible to the least obvious and the most impactful. The first is called stated needs. And this is what organizations, to a certain extent, they get this right. I've noticed in consulting with over 500 organizations, they get this one right? You ask your people what you need, and they'll tell you, right? What do you need? Paid time off, health benefits, flexible work schedule. You ask, they answer. It's a pretty straightforward construct. Now, here's the beauty, by the way. You can apply this just as equally to your non-work or personal relationships to really cultivate stronger relationships. Because we know from a humanistic standpoint, most human beings, regardless of background, experience, upbringing, culture, regardless of all those other attributes and characteristics, the 2 most visible, most people do, and we're limited because we don't proceed deeper into our relationships. So the first, as I said, is stated. We ask what you need, our employees need, they tell us. We survey them, we have a performance review, maybe once a year. We survey them, but we ask, they tell us, right? Straightforward. No. Not so obvious, not so straightforward, because it's incumbent upon us as human beings in relationship, whether it's peers, people who manage us when we're managing up in our relationships, or direct reports who report to us, regardless of direction, cross functions, in and out, with our clients, vendors, partners, doesn't matter. The second level is the real need, and that requires a bit of translation. What I mean by that is, you told us that, your voice matters. Our employee survey said our people are looking for. Let's make sure I understood that correctly. So you're asking for confirmation, validation. You're asking for clarification when needed. But that second level of need is what they told us is fine, but often it's not definitive. It's not completely clear. And it's incumbent on us to get clarity by confirming for the real understanding. Most people stop there. Most organizations stop there, most people in their personal relationships, and this is why we get into trouble. This is why there is what we call, by the way, I don't agree with this, but it's called a war on talent, because so many organizations are constantly scrambling to refill job vacancies because their top talent leave, because we don't offer these amazing people these universal human needs. So the third level is where we get a little bit less obvious. It's in the analogy of the Titanic or an iceberg. It's what we don't see below the surface level of the water, the ocean water level. What are they not telling us? What are they not telling us? What are we not hearing when we ask for what they need and we get clarity? What if we omitted? Because people won't tell you the totality of what they need from you to be fully empowered, enlightened, motivated, engaged, whatever we're talking about when it comes to employee wants, needs, desires. It's what goes unstated that can often prove detrimental, if not a downright potential dangerous destroyer of our organizational culture. So we really need to work hard to say, you know what you haven't shared with us? What are your career and professional goals? Where do you see us in 2 or 5 years? What do you need in the next 30, 60, 90 days to do your work more efficiently? What training? What certifications or accreditations? Are you getting everything you need from me as your manager? What does a leadership team need to do that you haven't verbalized? These are the kinds of things that get to a deeper relationship. So that's the third level, is the unstated. But let's go a little bit deeper, shall we? Where the water really gets murky and hard to see through, and where the iceberg branches out to have greater potential reach of adverse impact, is what people are not telling us that they wouldn't ask for us to deliver, because they honestly don't think that we care enough to deliver it. But you know that you're getting, as an organization, to that fourth deepest level of what we call delight needs gratification, or a need deliverance at a delight level, is when you offer something to your employees, they say, you would do that for me? I recently read about an organization where a relatively new employee had a sick family member. They were living on the 3rd floor in their apartment building, and they couldn't get up to the 3rd level. And the employer, unbeknownst to the employee who never asked for it, literally went into their apartment, bought an apartment for them on the 1st floor, and literally moved their entire apartment down for them to the 1st floor. The kind of reaction that's visceral that you would get back as delivering a delight need is the employee would say, wow, you would do that for me? Or even better, you did that for me? That's a delight need. That's the 4th level. And going even deeper, yeah, world-class organizations who have a 1 or 2% employee turnover rate per annum, as opposed to industry averages of 15, 20, 30% turnover. The reason they do that is these organizations work very hard to go to the deepest 5th level of employee or humanistic need, is what an employee won't say to you that they need is pretty much because they wouldn't admit it to her or him or themselves. But once you delivered that, you've moved that employee up in terms of stature from somebody who's just there for the paycheck, just killing time, just earning their years to get cost of living adjustments, pay increases, maybe merit increases, to convert them to a VIP, a brand ambassador, who would shout from the rooftops how amazing your organization is and bring other rock star amazing employees in, is to deliver their secret needs. And that's where you start to get to career and professional development plans that really ask employees the question, where are you going? What matters most to you? What are some of your hobbies or passions? What's your side hustle? What would you do if money were no object? What would you do if you didn't need to worry about a paycheck? And you strive to deliver that for employees, because remember, employees will tell you things based on they don't know themselves, or they're lying to you, or they're giving you what they're spoon feeding you what they think you as their employer want or need to hear. But when you start offering them things that they haven't even admitted to themselves, those are what we call secret needs. And that's really, really powerful. So what I hope is that you came away from today with a keener understanding of the power in building and forging relationships with your people, of serving their wants, needs, and desires based on universal needs that everybody has, and working damn hard as a preferred employer to not just meet those needs, but I hope you've already kind of determined where I'm going with this, is exceed their wildest hopes, dreams, and expectations. So if you like the video, please, please, please like it, share it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Also, if you like the work that I'm doing on my Chasing the Dream podcast or my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It really helps me with the algorithms to kind of build traction and be able to deliver this kind of insightful, informative, and motivational content to folks like you in the future. So have a great day. And please, please, please remember, always Let's go chasing the dream.